and we do 6 serves a week, and, we do about 200 customers a week, you know what I mean? So again, I guess, it's a personal rendition of what we think a restaurant is. And I guess when you do something quite openly and honestly and quite transparent, at the end of the day, it reflects who you are as a person. You know what I mean? It's your personality in every detail. And, we're certainly not into fanfare. So although the restaurant that we run might come at a cost because of the labour involved in it and the detail and the quality of the produce, it's not extravagant. It's not over the top. There's not chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, It's very much Australian. It's egalitarian. It's for everyone, who can, I guess, afford to be in that space, And we want the food to speak to all people as well. We want to challenge, but to also to be pleasurable. It's not meant to scare you, you know. And the same with the staff. The staff treat the guy coming on the chopper that lands down the road and gets a limo, and the guy that comes with the L plates on his dad's car for his first time in a restaurant exactly the same. There's no one more important in the room to us, And I guess one of those, and that's a very Australian thing, I hope.
For sure.
That's what we want an Australian restaurant to speak of. That's what we hope, I guess, when you're talking internationally of what happens in Australian restaurants. It's that feeling. It's a feeling of equal and, I guess egalitarian, So when you start to base your values around those types of things, design sort of has to follow that as well.
For sure.
So the chairs need to be comfortable. They're not just there to look good, The tables are nicely spaced, but, there's not just like spotlight shining over them, And it's not too Sir Madam, our restaurant. It's very much, we have formality because what we do requires us to have formality because there's a lot of things going on. But I wouldn't say it's formal. If that makes sense. It's a very tricky balancing act,
And with that balancing act, like how your element of self-awareness and self-regulation to see when it's out of balance, because it is quite detailed. How do you pick up on that, whether it's with the staff or whether it's just the feel of it? Like, does that happen weekly, monthly, daily, or could it be hourly?
Every moment, you know, like it really is. It's a complete, again, it's something where, I guess when you've considered every detail, literally, and when you've been responsible in the decision-making process for every detail, you're aware of what's going on. You notice when something's out of whack, and look, that's from, is the music too loud, or those leaves weren't raked up, or, that type of stuff. So it's a big job. It's a big all-encompassing type of arrangement where...
But I think, Dan, that's like... And I've spoken to and been at some places that have built, world-class and a really high standard. And it's the same, it's not different, it's the detail. And it's that being involved in all the decisions, which might be hard, but it's that sometimes the need, because if you don't understand how it works completely, you don't understand the ecosystem, you then don't understand when the ecosystem's broken of how to fix it, because you've just come in on the back end of it. And the music, if it's a couple of decibels and the leaves aren't raked, it doesn't matter. Is that sort of, it's just a lot of little things that just get missed that separates high performing or just a restaurant from a really good quality one?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, apart from what we spoke about before about, there being classic restaurants, there being casual restaurants, there being these places where they're just for nourishment and they just exist because they're just there to, I guess, in a sense, take your money. It's a business.
They feed.
And we're a business as well, make no doubt about that. Like, I mean, it's a business. It has to operate functioning properly like a business does, But there's much more involved in it. There's much more generosity of spirit involved there. There's a much more giving nature from our staff, and that involves doing all those shitty things sometimes to make sure that when someone comes in from the car park to the door to the table, if they go for a walk, how every single course was dropped to them, the language used, all of those things that can make you feel completely in someone's hospice. And I guess in a sense, it's about referring back to, although it's a commercial transaction, people book, they come,
Yeah.
we serve them, they pay, they go.
Yeah.
You know, at the most basic, you know. But how would you look after them if you invited them?
Yeah.
You know, so...
Yeah, that lens to look at it, yeah.
You know, so did they make a booking or did we invite them?
Yeah.
And if we invited them, how did we treat them?
Yeah, okay.
And if it was our house,
yeah,
how would we treat them?
Yeah.
Because if we just invited to meet them down the park and it was someone else's space, we might treat them a bit differently and have a different expectation. But if we invited them on a special occasion that we knew was theirs and we invited them into our home, now how are we treating them? You know, so I guess it's about changing the perspective, not necessarily the situation, but the way in which you view the situation often to get the best out of the relationship while they're there.
Yeah, okay. And how important, Dan, is like you mentioned a couple of times, which I was interested to talk to you about, it's the experience, it's not just the food. So like the storytelling of the food or the walk through the farm, like how important is the whole piece as opposed to it's about the food?
The food's minimal at the end of the day.
Yeah,
it's a classic thing that most people, you know, if you come to Brae, you'll have a menu that might comprise of 16, 17, 18 different offerings from the kitchen. Now, some might be quite quick and 2 bites and eaten with your hands, and some might be a knife and fork and take a bit longer, and some might be quite expansive and cover the whole table. But essentially, we're going to deliver to you about 16 different food experiences while you're there, you know. Yeah. And people are going to drink. Yeah. Some might get a bit boozy.
Yeah.
They'll be there for 3 to 5 hours.
Okay.
Generally.
Yeah.
All based on how slow they want to go, or if they've got, you know, no hurry, or they're staying the night or whatever. And they'll eat things which I'm very proud of, and things which are quite cutting edge in a sense, and you certainly can't have anywhere else in the world. And then most people will come up at the end of the meal if I speak to them and say, you know what, I really love your butter and your staff are amazing. That's a common thing that most people say. We make a really good butter.
Yeah, okay.
But butter's the most basic thing, and bread that people can relate to. Because in Australia, most people eat it most days.
Yeah.
You know. So it's good to be able to connect with people on a very baseline level.
Yeah.
But the thing that always stands out is they always say, your staff are amazing. And generally, even in the best experiences in the best restaurants in the world, for the layman, not for the food nerd who's categorised everything. I mean, I just about remember every dish I ever ate in every restaurant ever. But most people will forget the food.
For sure.
They won't forget how they were treated.
Yeah.
And it's a key thing. It's a key thing. So the experience is way more important than the food, and the food makes up part of the experience.
Yeah, well, it's like, in reflection, that's huge, because even in leadership and in teams, they'll forget the work, but they won't forget the manager or the leader that led them. It's a similar concept that's going to stick with them they won't remember the day-to-days of what they actually did.
Yeah.
How important is that? And you mentioned your staff because, you know, first of all, this is probably the best podcast because it's the closest one I'm ever going to do. Because we live in a place called Birregurra, which is, it's not as if you've got the pick of thousands and thousands of staff to just go, we can just churn them through, and there's, you know, you're in Melbourne or you're in New York and you can grab them. Like, we're isolated. So how important is the training of the staff and the dialogue to them to understand the importance?
Yeah, it's the most difficult thing we probably come up against day to day. But I don't think it's because of where we are. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think the hospitality industry in Australia in general has suffered over time through lack of training, lack of probably perhaps global reference or understanding of what the top level actually is. You know, I mean, Australians, I think in a lot of industries are quick to pat ourselves on the back.
Yeah.
And everything's all good and we're all good and we're the best at stuff. But then you go out and you go, ooh, we're not the best. This place is pretty good. And this level across everywhere is pretty good. So I think that's changed like the last decade. What hasn't changed has been the funding, or, you know, and I mean, just basic government funding into training of hospitality. Having said that, the hospitality industry has grown enormously, and the amount that people eat out has risen enormously, and the amount that now people expect from our top restaurants to be on par with the best restaurants in the world. There's a demand day in, day out that we are, you know. So It's tricky. And look, I guess one of the benefits that we have is that, look, I mean, to be honest, we're not drawing all of our staff from Birregurra. I mean,
sure.
certainly it's a bit difficult to do that. That's not to say that we don't have people who have been born and raised in the local area on the staff.
Yeah.
But many of our key team have come from all over the world, to be honest, And one of the benefits, I guess, that we do have compared to somewhere in a big city is that they've made quite a drawn out, I guess, employment process. They understand very much where they're going to work. They've often given up their day-to-day. They've moved away from where they live. They've come here. It's probably been difficult to find accommodation, as it is in Birri at the moment.
Yeah.
But they generally stick it out for a bit longer than most people in city restaurants who can have a bad service and just go, I've had enough of this place, I'm going, and walk out the door and walk up the road and get a job tomorrow. Because to do that with us, it's a big life change again.
For sure.
So, I guess we got that, on our side.
And I think, speaking to the restaurant and what I know about it, sustainability and a lot of the produce is local, if not on site. How important is that for you, for the restaurant? Because I imagine that you explain that to the staff that this is the basis of the restaurant. So Birri's it's in the Otways almost. It's a really wholesome sort of place.
Yep.
So does that draw the like-mindedness of the restaurant to the environment, to the people, so they will stay longer?
I mean, I hope so. I mean, I think to some degree with the kitchen team, it's probably a bit more of that. I mean, there's a lot of people sort of, coming to us. I mean, we get resumes every single day from people all over the world who want to come to Australia and work on a farm and have that connection. Sort of like the great dream for a chef.
Romantic,
and then they start to do it and they go, oh,
yeah, that's right.
Actually, so you got to actually pick everything every morning and wash it even before you get to the kitchen? It's a lot of work. It's ridiculous. Not to mention all the planning and all that stuff that goes on before those guys even notice what's growing. But I think for the service team, some are attracted to living in a regional area and working this style of restaurant, which would be considered like a destination restaurant. It's very good for them. But culturally is where I guess they are interested as well, because there is an expectation of performance from us. There is a level of requirement each day. They come in and they nail what they're doing. But I think generally there's a really good management culture in the business, and certainly that transparency that I spoke about earlier of who we are and what we do and how we do, all of those things that are important for the guest, super important for the team, and I think, having a very clear understanding of who you're working for and seeing them every day and they're there with you as well, because hospitality is one of those industries now that's probably getting chewed up a bit by sort of bigger organisations.
For sure.
The name chef may not actually work at your restaurant. This is still a pretty mum and pop operation in a sense. Like it is. It's Jules and I are there every day and working on the business, within the business every single day of the week, and I guess people are liking that. There's no confusion. I've got a question.
Yeah. There's
no Chinese whispers. No. The answer's standing right over there. I'll go find out, So people like that.
And does that... I guess it has to show up because you talked about, every customer's equal. Like there's no hierarchy. So the importance that your staff feel the same way, that, there's a lot of humility, and I gather there's a lot of that every job's super important, whether you're the gardener or whether you're, the chef. Like it all matters to make this work because it's still in that tin shed mentality. It's not expansive and it's not, third degree down and you won't see the manager or the chef ever.
Yeah, I mean, Look, I think it's one of those places where it is considered that all things are important, you know, and so I guess people doing the most mundane things hopefully understand that they're on the same level. I mean, and we talk about that in terms of ingredients. Like the classic thing is like, ship ingredients from all over the world. The best you can buy, import truffles from Italy, import caviar from Russia, do all these things to make a cuisine that speaks of nothing because it's just like stuff on a plate that's really expensive, you know. And sometimes the greatest dishes that you ever eat are the most simple